You're watching F5. We are at Black Hat USA 2023 in Las Vegas at the Mandalay Bay Convention Center. I am joined by Dan Woods. Dan Woods is now the Global Head of Bot and Risk Management at F5. Dan, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Very cool. So you've probably been to actually a number of Black Hats at this point. Can I ask you how many you've been to?
Actually, I've been to maybe 5 to 7 over the years. I don't come every year.
Okay, fair enough. This is actually the 26th year. I just looked it up yesterday, 26th year of Black Hat. So it's been really cool to see. I've only been to a couple, but I've heard of it over the years, and amazing to see how big it's grown so far. Everybody getting together and talking about information security. Now for us, we're going to be talking specifically around some of the scenarios that we've seen out there where bots have actually been interfering with ticket sales recently. There's been a number of pretty big concerts now that concerts are getting really big again, and you've seen this firsthand, I guess, with some of the products that we have.
Yeah, we've seen these sorts of attacks. Actually, I wouldn't even call them attacks. They might be desired automation by some of these organizations because their entire inventory sells out in seconds. So I think oftentimes it isn't, by the way, just ticket sales. It is maybe the people who sell sneakers, or maybe a limited time offer on an iPhone, or a leather purse, or anything that is offered for a limited time that people think they could use automation, use bots to buy a large inventory of them and then sell them on the secondary market. It's something we see quite a lot.
Interesting. So I would say, I guess from a business perspective, you still want to stop this kind of stuff, right? It's not necessarily good for business. You sell all this stuff, but it's not a great idea.
No, I actually think that many of these organizations don't really want to stop it. What they want to do is closely monitor the automation and also monitor the chatter on social media to see just how angry their loyal customers are getting. Because it might reach a point where they get so angry that the enterprise starts to care more about stopping the bots. But when their entire inventory sells out in seconds, that's actually a good thing for business. So I think many times publicly they're pounding their fist and objecting over these darn bots and telling their customers they're going to do everything they can to stop them. But then I think there's hugs and high fives in the boardroom. And they're not really interested in doing it. They have somewhat of a reverse incentive. Although we have a couple of customers who, if they've engaged F5 to stop the bots, then they're absolutely serious about stopping them.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so maybe not a direct impact right away, but they might feel it later on as far as indirect business impact, social media-wise and whatnot. I guess a couple other things that we wanted to chat about as well is bots actually having influence on generations socially, like being able to actually persuade people.
Yeah, that is actually my biggest concern. I mean, I do worry about credential stuffing and gift card cracking and all the usual malicious use of bots. But look, I think that state actors are probably creating hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of fake accounts on various social media platforms and then using bots to programmatically control those. And think about it, if you had programmatic control over hundreds of thousands or millions of social media accounts, you could bury truths and amplify lies. You could absolutely influence public opinion. And with AI, like things like ChatGPT, it's very persuasive. So yeah, I think that third-party control over the national narrative could actually influence public opinion to such an extent that it changes the outcome of elections. And I know that is controversial to say, but when elections are won or lost by a few thousand votes in the United States, the idea that you can use millions of social media accounts to sway just a few thousand people, I think it's very credible.
That's an interesting point. I think when it comes to things like buying up all those tickets or buying up those shoes, there's some sort of point where it's like, okay, we're getting a return on investment for this. You think of a nation state, the return on investment for, we're going to invest in a huge botnet, but that's going to give us huge political sway. That's worth the investment for them.
Yeah, a couple of things. We did a workup on a shoe bot. We were in observation mode, so we weren't mitigating. So we could see the number of sneakers that were successfully purchased, and then we looked on the secondary market to see how much these sneakers were being sold for, and we were able to determine the profit. And what's interesting is this isn't a couple of 20-somethings using it to pay the rent. This group of people are making millions of dollars US by buying large inventories of limited time offer sneakers and selling them for a large markup on the secondary market. It's big, big business. But to your point about influencing public opinion, yes, it's not just nation states that are interested in doing that, and by the way, have virtually unlimited budget to accomplish it. So, for example, with Twitter and Elon Musk having to pay for a blue check mark, that is certainly going to stop many of the people who are using bots and creating fake accounts, but it's not going to stop a state actor at all. But it isn't just state actors. I believe that lobbyists, campaigns, anybody who wants to influence public opinion can do the very same thing.
Yeah, very great point. Okay, so we have a couple other things that we wanted to chat about too. Social engineering and AI actually being able to actually change the way social engineering is done.
Yeah, that's a big concern of mine. Look, social engineering is causing a lot of damage now, especially to our elderly who are the most vulnerable. So you have one person, how many people can they social engineer in a day? I don't know, 30, 50, maybe 100, depending upon how long the calls are. When you have generative AI and the ability to synthesize human voice, you can social engineer thousands and thousands of people in a day. And the language that's used, it's very persuasive. It isn't just, look, I've run raids on many of these call centers where they're doing the social engineering, and I've got a hold of the script that they're using. And yes, it's carefully crafted to be persuasive, but it's not nearly as persuasive as a generative AI can be. So I'm gravely concerned about the effect that AI is going to have on criminals' ability to social engineer. It's going to be, I think, a devastating impact.
Well, I guess $1 million question, what are we going to do to solve that?
Well, obviously you got to stop the bots first and foremost. I tell organizations the first step in doing that is to gain visibility. You got to, start collecting those client-side signals and get visibility into what traffic is from humans and what traffic is from bots. That's where you got to start. And then, of course, you take mitigating action on the bad bots, and you allow list all the good bots, because not all bots are bad, right? You don't want to mitigate good bots. But then it's really about education. I think we've got to do a much better job educating the public on how to avoid being victimized by these sorts of crimes.
Very awesome. Okay, very cool. Thank you for joining me today, Dan. It's been awesome to chat with you. Again, we are here at Black Hat USA 2023 in Las Vegas, the Mandalay Bay. We are at booth 2240. Come check us out. I think Dan might be hanging around here and there inside of the booth. If he's not, check out all the content that we do have with Dan. I am going to have a thread on community.f5.com. It's going to be pinned at the top, and I'm going to have some best of clips of Dan that we've been able to do with him over the years as well. So look out for that, and otherwise, thank you very much, and we will see you on the next one.